Hello, fellow co-creators. I'm Libby, and I want to welcome you into a journey that I am beginning called Sunrise Sadhana. Let's begin with just taking a deep breath in and out. In and out. Drop a little deeper into your seat. In and out. You might have been seeing my name or face pop up recently, especially through my coaching work, Liberatory Love, and my design work, Elegance Lab. And you might have followed the beginning of a movement that I started last year called Fully Charged Life. I used to call it Digital Thriving, but I decided to switch it over and call it Fully Charged Life because of the deliberate fear we all hold of seeing this device go without battery. And what if we had that much fear about our own life force, energy, and battery going down? So Fully Charged Life is a movement. Liberatory Love is a business. Elegance Lab is also a business. Within all of that, though, is the spiritual, emotional, energetic journey that I am on, that I strive to be transparent about. And this is what I want to share with you as I speak into Sunrise Sadhana, this concept of morning devotion or morning prayer, and beginning to speak about my spiritual life and spiritual journey. So, first off, I want to name why I'm doing a video with my face, with my voice, with my bright pink nails, with my new haircut. And then just name. If this is for you, you're welcome here. If it's not, it's okay. But this is where I am laying down a path and also, yeah, acknowledging some multiplicity here of who I am and how I'm going to be offering things for friends, family, and the collective moving forward. It's such a joy to be so at ease about this. At ease doesn't mean that everything is perfect, but it means there's been a major shift in my system. And perhaps as you listen to me, you will understand why there would be difficulty and consternation as I decide what to speak about, when, where, and how. So first, I want to just drop you back into what I was doing a decade ago. A decade ago, I was a fitness instructor in upstate New York at a camp called Silver Bay. And there was no director. They needed a director for this camp. And so I actually was for the fitness department. So I was the fitness director. And the woman who employed all the people at the camp, she told me that summer, I've never seen the gym so full, Libby. And we would get people in there. We'd have volleyball going. I don't even play sports, but I taught 10 fitness classes a week. I was getting more into yoga. At the same time, I was literally mourning that summer because I knew I would have to come back and study user experience design, which I had chosen, but I really hated working virtually. I knew I want to be in my body. I want to feel energized. I want to live like this. Even my brother and sister came and visited me up at this camp, and there really was a heavenly feeling to this space. I also was still studying within Christianity, which have been a part of my entire life. And I have a little journal written there as well from journal entry from myself about one of the camp directors on the Christian side of things, because the whole camp wasn't Christian, but the department I was in was telling me, like, Libby, you better use your power for good. And this was a very interesting phrase. What does it mean to use your power for good? Uh, Within the Christian environment, sometimes, or a spiritual environment, there can be this extreme amounts of pressure. You are the person demonstrating Jesus's love. You are the person demonstrating yoga, so don't muck it up. And even outside of Christianity, that flavor still continues. We don't want to bring negative attention towards something that is so pure and so loving and so good, and yet all of us are human. And I bring all that up to say the same time that I was working at this camp, beginning to gather people, beginning to really feel what it felt like to guide groups in fitness. I remember teaching my first high intensity interval training class and having my entire male staff run around the gym and do everything. And they were panting and out of breath. And it felt amazing just to be in this position of training people and helping us work hard. I love feeling good in our bodies, and I want people to get to feel better in their bodies. But at the same time I was doing all of that, I also was uh, studying to become an intercultural aide. And an intercultural aide was a position at MSU where you work on a diverse staff, and you try to cultivate greater community in the dorms, and you have conversations about controversial social issues. And so that same summer that I was leading this and getting kids there and teaching 10 classes a week, that same summer, I began to study the history of race in the US. And I began to study the history of race law and how we literally changed laws when we wanted Mexicans in this country and when we did not. And when we wanted this person to get to identify as white or Black to fit our mold of what we needed labor-wise. And I also watched, part of our training there was the documentary, The House You Live In, which was made by a Jewish filmmaker who compared the drug crisis, the war on drugs in the US in the 80s to, or used the Holocaust system to elicit how a culture can ostracize an entire group of people and create apathy around the demonization and ultimately the locking up and even the murder of a group of people. And that filmmaker chose to make a parallel between the US racial system and Nazi Germany. And so this same summer, a lot was beginning to buzz around my head. I also got a book that summer from Anita Roderick. She has since passed away. I think she had already passed away at the time I got the book, but she was the business owner who created, I want to say Bath and Body Works, but it's not Bath and Body Works, The Body Shop. And she was an activist behind this company. Her husband was in news, and she began to travel the world with him. And as she traveled with him, she got exposed to women all around the world. And she decided to make a company that used natural ingredients that brought back these traditions into into the West and to give money back and employ. She had a sustainable business model. And at the same time, she was writing this book called I'm misplacing the name of the book. I have it on my shelf, but basically speaking into all the different kinds of activism happening around the world and in support of the earth, and how our traditional business models were harmful to creating greater life force on this earth. So a lot was coming into my field. This was also the time that I had been leading Design for America. At MSU, I had been one of the founders there, and I was leading design teams, interdisciplinary teams. And at that time, when I came back after working for this camp, I continued to teach design. I continued to study to Northwestern. Many people have come back into my world from Northwestern and other universities who knew me at that time when I would lead these big workshops where I remember people would come up and tell me like, oh my gosh, Libby, there's so much community, there's so much love here. And so there was so much happening in my world at this time. I'm going to pause and just take a sip of my coffee. It's such a joy to be in the position I am today to reflect all of this back, because what happened for me after that time was I began to think that I had to keep on creating this much joy in the society and the culture around me. I began to put a lot of pressure on myself because I had been a part of some very big and vital experiences with people which really were group efforts and part of larger organizations. I still felt like it was on me. Even though I was working with groups, I was beginning to cultivate my own craft as an artist, and I was beginning to be invited to teach at the university or to be called into consulting gigs. I also was taking a lot of initiation and asking, as a designer, I could kind of position myself in ways that I wanted. And so I began to take on a lot of pressure on myself to teach and guide. And this pressure felt crippling for me. So the beautiful side was I took everything that was coming my way and I did something I love to do, which was say, what's the biggest vision for what I can do? And I created a source of income through my design and I set out to travel the world and learn about something that I deeply wanted, which was health and energy. And I didn't use the word energy at that time, but greater health, greater aliveness. I began studying yoga. I began studying Ayurveda. I began to meet people around the world. There's many people on my Facebook page right now and people who reach out who met me through that time period, living at a Buddhist monastery, studying yoga in India, working in South Africa at a nonprofit. There was a lot of aliveness, but at that time, I didn't have the strength within me to hold all that I was taking in. So it went from I was studying, learning, leading with others to I chose the solo journey. And on the solo journey, it was still very communal and very connected. And it was also full of anxiety and fear and pressure, financial pressure as well, because I had taken on this risk of traveling out in the world without money and kind of an assumption that I would be able to just continue creating opportunities, which I did, but I, began to have some different edges in there. I also created my first version of the design company I wanted, Endeavor, and I was in Nigeria with several friends who I'd been collaborating with on a project virtually for about a year, and I actually went and visited them and visited this innovation center. So a lot was opening up for me in these years. And 10 months after that experience, so a lot of back-to-back, more and more and more in health and wellness and community vitality, working for the government, travel, exploration, all these things, study of religion, all these things happening, building, building, building. Well, I came back to the US and I reconnected to an organization called Starting Block, where there was plenty other social innovators, also an organization I connected with in 2015. So I got support, but I also felt very destabilized and I moved to San Francisco. I continued this whole journey working at a gym, working at teaching fitness again, teaching rock climbing, working with kids, working at a startup. I was very good at always finding ways to be in the body, in my health, in my body, in my health, serving others with others. But again, I was not processing what was happening. I didn't have a strong enough root system around me. And I began to feel more destabilized. And within this time period, my brother took his life. So Dan's death then became an activator, an opener of everything that was already happening in me, amplified. And it was its own experience, but it also was shining a light on me. And 10 months after that happened, COVID broke out and the world shut down. And so while I won't detail all of that, all of what's happened in my own life, what I will say is that my expectation after my brother's death in 2019 was I'll just be down for a little bit and then I'll be up and I'll be ready to go. I'm always connected with people. I always know how to make myself healthy. I love health. Even at the time of his death, I was so ignorant is the best word I will use to say, why don't depressed people? I actually said this out loud to a friend of mine who deals with depression. I don't understand why depressed people don't just go on a run. And so after this time period, karma came to me, God source came to me and invited me into a journey of really knowing what depression feels like and what it feels like to be overloaded and overweighted and feel incapable of taking action on certain things that you desire. So there are a lot of things that continued to happen in that time. Again, I don't want to detail my whole life in this specific video, but what I can say is that I did not begin to function again in this culture, in this society, through just picking myself back up. It actually took many years to actually get into trauma healing work and embodiment work to begin to get at the depth of what I was experiencing. I have a lot of plenty more vulnerable videos about what it has felt like to go through that and the spiritual side, the depressive side. And so if you want more information on any of that, it exists. And a year ago, choosing in 2024 to say, it's been 5 years and it's still so hard. It's been 5 years, and every single time I hit this time of year, I get depressed. It's been 5 years and I'm always heavy now. That activated so much in my field. So much support has come to me in the last year through me voicing my 5-year relationship with the depression that came after Dan's death. And it's through this that I've had another awakening, which is that I can't do this alone. I simultaneously am capable of a lot, and I am not going to come through this portal that has been activated for me alone. Period. I can say this so comfortable. I spent so much time recording different videos and even believing and speaking into what I am going to do to serve others and what I am doing to serve others. And that's beautiful. And what this past week in particular has taught me is others are wanting to come on this journey. And so one of the hardest things for me has been voicing how, like, what I'm working through is very vulnerable. I've also chosen to study sexuality work. And so there's a lot of questions about landing within a certain bucket. Do I just, if I'm going to get a PhD, which I have held close to my heart for many years because I've essentially been researching over the years through my life, if I'm going to get a PhD, then I don't want to publicly be speaking about spirituality or witchy stuff or being this crazy magical woman. And at the same time, this is exactly where I am. This is exactly where my privilege and choice has allowed me and chosen for me to be. It is a privilege. I use the word privilege because it is a privilege to get to use words in this society and culture that are not accepted. We are at a time where the government is literally mandating things. We live in cancel culture, and there are, from the left, from the right, from multiple vantage points, reasons to keep words closeted or to literally entrap and illegally take doctors, students out of their homes over certain words, certain protests. And there's a reason that this is happening right now. There's a reason this present conversation about words and language is so prevalent. And it's not just about free speech. This is not just a political debate over what words are allowed and what words are not allowed. This is, in my vantage point, an experience. I am not reducing the social political aspects that are happening, but I want to bring another perspective that this whole conversation that we're in as humans about what words are allowed and what words are not allowed, and canceling each other, and what what speech is free, all this is part of the activation of a voice within us that is not limited to the language that we currently use. It is not limited the same way the voice is not limited to the language that we use. The inner eye is not limited to the paradigms that we see. And what we know in the energetic system, within the yogic energetic system, is that this throat is highly connected to the genital region. And so the unlocking of our power, of the element of water is associated with that region of the body. The unlocking of this space of power, empowerment, sexuality, self-knowing, inner intelligence, abundance, access to wealth, calling in of our own integrity. This entire space is connected to this voice. And our root, our ability to be grounded and in knowing here on this planet is connected to this third eye space. There's a meditation teacher right now named Joe Dispenza, and whatever you believe about him, because he is popular and brings in wealth through his programs, and so it is easy to look at that critically. I invite you to form your own opinion through interacting with his books, his meditations on your own. One of the things in his book, Becoming Superhuman, I think that's what it's called, Becoming Supernatural, maybe, is that most of us as humans are stuck in the bottom three regions of the body, which is our root, our sacral, our solar plexus. We are so heavy with emotion that the upper part of the body, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown, the connection to source, cannot even be accessed. So from this perspective, all of our religious practices right now, every fixation we have on enlightenment or even a kind of divine power manifesting in us, it's not that this is wrong or inaccurate, but it's disembodied still. We are opening to light, but we are stuck from the belly down. So as I speak right now, I'm aware that one of the things I'm always aware of is I'm going on tangents. I'm going in many directions. And I want to pause for that reason. But I also have been in study of these things now in formal religious environments, formal spiritual environments, formal academic environments, informal academic environments, informal spiritual environments, informal religious environments, with scientists, with non-scientists, with regular people who are living their life, with children, and with my support system that is not visible on the screen. And what I know is that the need for new language is here. My hope was that I could get to a place where I made so much sense in some logical way that I could just choose a lane and I can stay in it. And I would just be a PhD whose research is anthropology and human history and indigenous traditions of connecting with Earth. Or I could be a creatrix who is a more sexual, spiritual teacher who can be completely in her own magical vibe. She is hired for one-to-one clients or group experiences and supports the healing of a body, mind, and spirit through cultivating and activating sexual energy rather than overriding it. Or an older version of me was like, I could make sure I don't do any controversial stuff and I'll just focus on nutrition and the design work that I used to do around health and vitality that just has to do with food. And we can focus on agriculture and the people who are tending this earth. Or I could be a really good spiritual teacher who fits in all the boxes and she just needs to figure out her path. She needs to decide, is she going to be Christian? Is she going to go back to being a Christian? Is she going to be a yogi? Is she going to be a meditator? Is she going to be a Baha'i who believes in the oneness of religion? And then, of course, there's a side of me that thought, well, maybe I could just be a mother and I could just get married and I could be an amazing wife. And once I have the partner who's going to so perfectly and beautifully complement me, then I'll be able to hit the road and we'll know what to do. And whether you resonate with any of these paths, what I have learned from knowing people in all of them is that the questions persist on the path. The questions persist on the path. The questions persist with children, without children. The questions persist with lovers, without lovers. The questions persist with partners, without partners. The question persists with a PhD and without a PhD. The question persists with a business, without a business. The questions persist at a dinner table, on a date, with your friends, and when you're alone. So the invitation from my system is how to hold these questions better, how to work with these questions better. And part of the journey for me as someone who loves community and loves people and seeks to lead and wishes and wants and desires to be back in that gym, wants to be back in the day that my brother died and I was working at a gym in San Francisco with all of these people and I have a photo of me hanging upside down. I want to be in the gym. I want to be cultivating energy. I want to be in the group experience. I miss Design for America. I miss traveling. I miss teaching English when I was 17 years old. I miss the quality of connection that I have had when I have been so deeply in a room with people who want to build. And the language that we have right now to build is insufficient for what is possible and what is. What is. The language right now is insufficient for what is. The language we are using now gets to break open. And if you are listening to this and you are in a specific environment, maybe it's corporate, maybe it's academic, maybe it's religious, maybe it's new age or spiritual, maybe it's political, and you know this, I invite you just to give permission to the part of you who knows the language is limiting us. The language. It is not just language alone. It is our sight. It is our vision. This is not a task for any one of us. This is not something that can be contained. This is not something that can fit in a box. This is not something that can be bought and sold. And it's such a joy to get to a place of such agitation. What I've learned about being agitated and pushing on a bubble, agitated and pushing on an edge, agitated and pushing, agitating and pushing, is that things break. We cannot always be in the state of push, but we also do have to actually push when it's time. When the ask is here, when the baby is ready to come, when the shell is ready to be broken, the push, the shove, the agitation, the scream, it needs to be here. This is a scream that is beyond political. Yes, we are in a moment right now that requires voicing. And thank you to every person willing to speak and to stand. And I invite you to consider that the roots of every social condition we are experiencing is deeper. It is deeper than what we see, just in the same way that this human body is always experiencing something that has roots in our lineage, roots in the way that we have lived on this earth currently, roots in the way this earth that is also us has been treated. This is ours to remember. This is ours to reclaim. This is what responsibility is. Responsibility is not just claiming your life. It's not just claiming your emotional experience, and both of those are needed if you're going to be liberated. It is claiming what this being is, which could never, ever be summarized by the doctor looking back at you, the gynecologist looking back at you, the bank teller looking back at you. And that is not to say we don't need those roles, but you cannot be contained in a one-dimensional viewpoint of you. I cannot only have a business. I cannot only have a social movement because I'm so damn creative. I'm so in need of creating that it's gonna have to be Elegance Lab. It's going to have to be Liberatory Love Incorporated. You know, these are not things that I'm putting my title on so that they can exist through me alone. One of my dear collaborators says we create to allow things to go obsolete too. I'm not creating some of the things that I'm creating to centralize myself more. But the creative energy in me does seek to cultivate new processes of creativity, new ways of connecting to our inner being. That being said, that is not the end or the beginning of my work. It is not the source of my inspiration. And sunrise sadhana means spiritual practice. In yoga, sadhana can mean breath work, chanting, meditation. Sunrise for me is the recognition of new light, new life. It is literal. For years, as I have struggled with depressive periods and considered what the name of the digital wellness work that I wanted to do was going to be called, I considered the name Morning Light because I wanted the light of the morning. And I also wanted LITE, this concept of lightness in our connection to our devices. But I'm choosing the name for now, Sunrise Sadhana, because this is about ritual. This is about practice. This is about a new way of connecting at a very, 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 very baseline level. Sunrise Sadhana and this experience that I'm going to create to begin to detail my spiritual experience is just an invitation to create your own Sunrise Sadhana. But it's also going to be, it also is me coming out of the closet in several ways. So I'm going to detail them now. The other thing that I'll say is that what I opened with how I used to work with these teams, and then I went on this personal journey and I missed these teams. And right now, in the last year, as I named, since coming out, speaking about more depressive periods, so the team is being rebuilt. My desire, my yearning for superheroes, my desire and yearning to build superhero teams, it's so present. It's so alive. It's so here. It's so here. I can't even cry. It's so trustworthy. And that's the part that I want to emphasize. There's so many videos I've recorded that have taken so much courage and I felt so nervous. I'm not nervous about this video. I am not nervous about this video because it has literally been asked to be made. And there's a shock in my system, just by comparison. The part of me who is so afraid, don't speak on sexuality, don't speak on spirituality, don't speak on, which we can evaluate. Where is the don't coming from? Because is that coming from me? Or is that coming from social conditioning not to speak? Don't. Two, choosing to speak, and everyone, I don't mean everyone, but people who are seeking what I am seeking are coming into my field literally asking me, do you have a method for manifestation? Do you have can you write up your own vision of how you see the future economy? I want to share with you about my spiritual and mental health experience and hospitalizations. I want to share with you about the upbringing that I had and the journey in and out and back again. So many hospitalizations come my way, so many stories of hospitalization. And I get to say what a doctor and a therapist can't right now. The story doesn't begin at the hospital and it doesn't end at the hospital. The hospital is not the end all be all for health. The doctor's office is not the end all be all for health. In the same way that the courts are not the end all be all for justice. There's so much clarity in my system because of the year and a half of freedom I have had from formal institutions. And I understand that this is literally the place that I'm in is literally not permissible. If you participate, if you are being employed right now through a formal institution, you are not allowed to speak openly. And so I feel it. I feel it. I receive the invitation. I hear you. I hear us. I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm speaking for the people who are coming into my world right now and asking me to speak what I can see and hear, because for a year and a half and really for 8 years, but especially in the last year and a half, this I have allowed to say what she needs to say repeatedly, repeatedly. And I have listened to people speak back when my throat is open. And this I have allowed to see what she wants to see. And it's a privilege and it's a gift. And it's not a gift that I hold. It's a gift that I get to give back. So this is my coming out. We are coming out, first of all, sexually as bisexual. We are coming out, secondly, as part of the practice or the study of non-duality, coming out as a performer. Creatrix Libby is an act. Creatrix Libby is a deeper version of me. It's also an act. I love acting. I believe coming out as loving and believing in magic. And coming out, let me see if there's anything else I want to, coming out as a student of the Baha'i faith, which is a religion that says all the religions are connected. Coming out of the closet that I believe Jesus's spirit has already come back. And freedom from, I remember when I was first exploring the Baha'i faith, one of the biggest things was Libby's in a cult, Libby's in a cult, Libby's in a cult. First of all, I'm not formally in the Baha'i faith anymore. I consider myself a friend of the faith. Second of all, I just listed off a lot of things that I inquire about. And on my page, Sunrise Sadhana, you can go look into the roots of any of them if you feel uncomfortable with them. But third of all, let's look at what a cult is. Because a cult is actually what all of us are in within the qualities of nationalism we're in, within the worship of capitalism we're in. One thing I love about being raised Christian is that it taught me so much about language, so much about the policing of language, so much about saying the right words to generate connection or prove that you are in with Christ or out with Christ, saved or unsaved, all through the language you use. And yet, going on a spiritual journey that allowed me to see Christ cannot be limited to any language we have. Spirit, source, God, divine universe cannot be limited to any language we have. And so through this, being welcomed into what is heaven in its own way. And this is what we get to explore. I bring all this study of cults to ask you to inquire about how language, the policing of language, the policing of thought, the policing of behavior, embodiment, the policing of embodiment means you curl your shoulders around this person. You stay small around this person. Your gut physically hurts around this person or group of people. If you notice yourself having those reactions, that is not yours alone. That has been conditioned into you through hierarchy, through supremacy, through shame, fear, anger, through generations, through cultures. We don't have to subscribe to any of this. And it's not just about how we stand up politically. It's about how we inhabit our own bodies. There's a type of floodgate that's going to open for me. And I'll just share the biggest fear in that process. Let's just adjust this hair. Woo! The biggest fear and the biggest excitement. The biggest fear is they're not going to let me run a company if I'm spiritually open. They, who is they? I'm not allowed to run a company. I'm not allowed to be in XYZ position. I will not be able to welcome XYZ amount of money. I will not be able to support myself or a family. I will not be attractive or welcome to be like enough. Let's just go with the enoughness one there. I will be physically hurt. I don't have that much fear of that, but many people who come into my field have this one because you have been physically hurt, physically beaten by people, by your parents. I will be deported. Again, not a fear I hold, but many people who come into my field as well also have living experience, family members with experiences of physically being removed from your place of residence. There are all kinds of fears, and they are not just personal. They are not just in our heads. And I am in a privileged position. I get to speak on this. None of those fears are enough to stop me from speaking on this now. And that's a gift. And that's taken so long. And 12 weeks ago, actually 10 weeks ago, when I got the book, when I got the download or understanding for me that I was going to be writing the book, Activating the Teacher, which is about my own journey of trusting this inner voice and this inner teacher in me. I was thinking about it more in the book format. But now, over the weeks and in making some videos and sending it to some people and getting feedback and having people come my way, because I do everything with me and the collective. I'm listening. What wants to come? What wants to come? What wants to come? What wants to come is this practice of sunrise sadhana, this practice of me starting to share about my faith, because I can't I'm pausing here one more time just because there's a sense of like be cleaner. I really choose, just so you know, and viewers or listeners, the reason that I choose to speak, and you'll see this in a lot of my videos in this year, the reason I choose to speak and I actually pause and I acknowledge the other voices that come into my head is because I recognize those voices. I work with embodiment with people, so these voices are not just voices in our own heads. They're typically conditioning, fear, that come from lived experiences we've had or things from our culture. And they are never just ours. And so many of us keep them quiet. So it's important for me. I like to speak them now, but to show that they are happening, even in real time, when I'm sometimes sharing about something, and especially if I'm sharing about something that's controversial, these thoughts come into my mind. And then also because I know the trajectory, I'm so committed to where I'm going. I'm so in love and I'm so supported right now that I know that these videos, even for me, they get to be a gift. These videos get to be a gift because they remind me and show me where we have come from and where we're going. So I don't know where I was, but I wanted to just speak that part. All the fears about how I can run a business and be spiritual, all the fears right now about how I can be transparent in my spiritual journey and have community and have love. All my fears about talking about and working on sexuality and being accepted in the community. Those are pretty much my three different buckets of fears. What I have learned already from working with fear is that as soon as I voice it, the gate can open, the gate can open, the gate can open, the gate can open. So today, that's what I'm voicing. The voicing is if I start to speak about my visions for a new age, a new world order, not conspiracy theory, but spiritual embodied, the recognition of a new way of life, the recognition of the concept of spiritual or conscious evolution, and my own devotion to something called the gene key system in the Baha'i faith, that all of these would create separation, that the people around me, they don't want to hear this, or they don't know what I'm talking about. But what I find increasingly working in different environments is that the insights that I speak, they are received. And so it actually is important that I begin to share about the spiritual understanding that I have. And I began this video with saying what direction I'm going in and where I'm going and what I see. And so I guess want to for myself speak something. The spiritual insights that I understand, the spiritual intuitions that come through dreams for me, that have come through reading, they are not unique to me. We all have access to them, but they are alive in me. They are not always integrated with Libby. Libby also wants to be on stage. Libby also likes to act. Libby also likes to design. Libby also likes to write music. And so there is a degree to which I'm allowing a part of me to come forth that has been repressed, a part of me that I have not deemed as acceptable, a part of me that I think and thought will be a hindrance to the life that I want to live. And I'm choosing to allow her to speak. And that is what Sunrise Sadhana will be. And for anyone who's choosing, I talked to someone this week who's a person who works on sexuality and also works on spirituality. And I asked him what was harder, coming out as gay, coming out as spiritual. And he was like, well, they were both very personal journeys, but the harder thing was accepting myself as a type of spiritual guide because there's a pedestal around it and just removing that. And that's what I also want to speak into. Me choosing to speak on spirituality, it doesn't mean I'm still living a human experience. I'm still going to go through everything that every human is going to go through, sickness and unknown and fear and anger and shame. I still go through all of those things. And my work with Liberatory Love is about the human side of things. And my work with Elegance Lab is about what we're creating. And I also have spiritual understanding and belief about the future of society. And it feels incongruent to continue to keep that part of me closeted. There will be space to work with me, to work within my organizations, to work within my businesses, to come to my classes and not be in full alignment or resonance or understanding or agreement with the things that I speak. And there's just permission that I want to speak over that. And I need to be honest that I am letting you go. I am letting you go. My culture, my society, my family, my fellow humans who I have loved to work with. I am letting go of the need for you to accept me. I am letting go of the need for you to understand me. I am letting go of the need to be loved in return by you in your present form, because there is infinite love in the trust that I experience now. And I'm so grateful for the experience of rejection that I have felt in many places. I'm so grateful for the experience of rejection of myself, which is fundamentally what is happening for any of us when we are not speaking on and into what we see. Choosing to speak on things that are not culturally acceptable yet or cultural norms does not mean that I do not like reason, that I do not want harmony of thought and action, that I do not like rationality. In fact, I believe in rationality and I believe in logic. And I believe that the logic obsession that exists now is not in harmony with truth. So if you would like a space to begin to reflect on the concepts of a new age, a new world order, a time of renewal for humankind, if you would like to think about or experience invitation into your unique walk with God, Source, Divine, if you would like to explore what manifestation and attraction means, not from the stance of, I want this thing and I'm, like going to some shopping market to get it, but I actually am being so deeply connected to all that is, that it's inevitable that I get everything that I need, that everything I need is beyond what this mind thinks that I need. This is a space where you're welcome to explore. And if you would like to support me financially in that, you can have a subscription to it. If you would like to just tap in, you can click on this page when you would like to. If you would like to receive it to your inbox, you can subscribe to it. But Sunrise Sadhana, as it exists as a Substack page right now, it's not just a daily practice that I'm starting to communicate and channel to a degree the life force and love that is in my being and in my soul. It is acceptance. And that's the part that I'm sharing. I can't or don't want to be here without this part of me. And I've struggled, this human has struggled a lot over these last 6 years around making herself acceptable, making herself understandable. There is such a desire to be in agreement, to be in unity, to be in connection. And it's my greatest understanding now that that agreement, that unity, that harmony, that can only come when we are in our greatest alignment to who we are. And that alignment has to come from taking action in the direction of that. It cannot come from thinking our way into it. For me, I need to put myself up in front of the village and say, this is me naked and afraid. I can't wait till I'm actually naked leading events. But this is me naked and afraid and in love, in love, in love, in love. For me to be in love, I cannot pretend that the roots of what I'm doing are logical in the way that this culture perceives as logical. There is a new science emerging. There is a new economy emerging. There is a new culture emerging that we are contributing to, that we are initiating, but also that is initiating us. I am not speaking as with me knowing. What I know is that I don't know. But what I know is that the love, the trust can hold us. It is not tied to our governments. It is not tied to our financial systems. It is not tied even to our health. And the next step is yet to be determined. Thank you, Zoom, for giving me a thumbs up. I don't know if that's going to be visible. The next steps are not going to be blueprintable, but they will come through us saying yes to more of ourselves. So thank you for being here. Thank you for exploring. Thank you for letting me serve you in whatever way. It might just be as a business coach, excuse me. It might just be as a love coach. It might just be as a contributor of the movement that's going to contribute to greater technological systems that work with the technology of the body, not just the programming of the elites. But it also might be as a spiritual guide. And I thank you for that, because at the end of the day, you are your own teacher. That is the part of my work, activating the teacher. Your teacher will come and guide you. And also, I have chosen or not chosen, I don't know, I've either chosen or been gifted with sight and love and vision that extends thousands of years beyond this time. And this vision is not, it's not meant to be believed. It is just meant to be experimented with. There are so many traditions that I'm building on, that I'm integrating. I'm not making up my own religion. I'm not making up my own spirituality. I'm not making up my own path. I'm not forcing any specific array of actions, but I am plugging into an intelligence that says, remember us, remember who you are, remember your heart, remember your body, remember this earth, remember this cosmos, remember the power in this current existence, and find healing here now, not in the next lifetime. Find healing here now. Find love here now. Find connection here now. We are it. 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 Not waiting on anyone else. As I like to say, let's play. I love some of my favorite sexuality coaches. They talk about how different people in their lives, they would unfollow them, refollow, unfollow, refollow, and these people would come back and tell them, I really felt triggered by you, but I wanted something that you had, and I decided to come back. And so I just invite you to do relate to me. This is why am I speaking this? I don't owe this to you. But maybe I'm just speaking this to the part of you who also wants to speak out. Let's give each other permission to unfollow each other. Let's give each other permission to create distance from each other and be brave in that, but not create isolation from the parts of ourselves that want to be here now.